Hello everyone, I thought I would make a video with some of my reading recommendations for Spider-Man, as he is my top character of comic books of all time. This list is a mixture of good jumping on points, Spider-Man stories that I've read over the years that I've enjoyed, and just an overall list that will give you a good understanding of the character of Spider-Man from start to finish. Kicking off my list, I would have to start off with the original Amazing Spider-Man run, which you would want to start with Amazing Fantasy 15 before going on to Amazing Spider-Man issue 1. And continuing on for the first 100 issues. This first amazing run is written by Stan Lee with art by Steve Ditko and John Romita Sr. It changes artists since, unfortunately, Steve Ditko had some creative differences with Stan Lee and left about halfway through the run and was replaced by John Romita Sr. Despite these changes, both artists are amazing and both provide incredible, amazing work to their respective runs on Spider-Man. The run introduces us to most of the main characters of Spider-Man. Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May, J. Jonah Jameson, the editor at the Daily Bugle, which Spider-Man works at, Betty Brant, the secretary and first love interest of Spider-Man, Flash Thompson, the school bully, Harry Osborn, Peter's best friend, Peter's two main love interests throughout this run, Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane, as well as most of Spider-Man's main villains. If you wish for a slightly more modern place to jump into Spider-Man, I'd recommend Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man, it's a bit more of a slow burner and takes about 7 issues to tell the same story that Amazing Fantasy 15 tells in 1 issue. It is a slightly more in-depth look into the origins of Spider-Man and covers mostly his high school years as Spider-Man. Written by Brian Michael Bendis and art predominantly by Mark Bagley or Bagley, whichever way you pronounce it. Personally, I'm more of a fan of the original run of Amazing Spider-Man as an origin story, as opposed to the Ultimate Spider-Man. That's just my preference. I prefer the sort of quickness that we get into being Spider-Man at the original run, as well as the fact that the Ultimate Spider-Man run is of the early 2000s, and somehow I feel like the 60s run ages slightly better. That's possibly due to the fact of growing up in the early 2000s, and it's kind of like when you look at an old picture of yourself, you're like, what was I doing back then? That being said, the Ultimate Spider-Man run is pretty good and definitely worth checking out, especially if you do want a more modern jumping on point, and it does eventually give us fan favorite Miles Morales, which is a good reason to read this run of Spider-Man. Next up, I would recommend reading Amazing Spider-Man issues 121 and 122. These are the 2 issues where one of the main characters dies. A lot of you watching will probably already know which character that is, although if you are completely unfamiliar with the Spider-Man mythos, I won't spoil it for you. Just go back, read those issues, and continue watching the video. Next up, my next recommendation would be the Secret Wars crossover event. This isn't solely a Spider-Man story. It, however, does introduce us to the Spider-Man symbiote suit, which, spoiler alert, later becomes Venom. After this, storylines during the Black Suit Spider-Man run that I would recommend would be Kraven's Last Hunt, which is a 6-part story arc which goes across the 3 main titles that were out at the time, which were Amazing Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, and Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. After that, I would recommend issues 107 to 110 of Spectacular Spider-Man. For those of you who don't know, this is another major death in the Spider-Man mythos. So spoiler alert, this is the death of Jane DeWolf storyline. I just recently, as of recording this video, finished reading it. It's very good. Definitely recommend that. After that, I would recommend Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, which introduces us to the character of Venom, one of the biggest adversaries in the Spider-Man mythos. This issue contains amazing art by artist Todd McFarlane, the creator of Venom. My next Spider-Man recommendation would be a more modern story of the Spider-Verse crossover event by Dan Slott that was published in 2015. For all of you Spider-Verse fans out there who've seen the films and have loved those, this is the event that started it all. And last but not least, my last recommendation for this video would be the current Ultimate Spider-Man run by Jonathan Hickman. This run gives us a slightly older Peter Parker who has never been Spider-Man before and becomes Spider-Man at a slightly older age. Him and Mary Jane are married and they have kids, and this is kind of really the Spider-Man run that most Spider-Man fans have been looking for quite a long time, and it is definitely a good place to currently jump into Spider-Man. Anyway, that is all for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed my recommendations, and see you next time. Also, almost forgot to say, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share. Helps out. Anyway, thank you very much. See you next time.